Welcome back, everyone. Katie Bostorff is here tonight to interview someone who's putting a new spin on the stories we all hear in the dorms.
Justin Jones, thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
You're welcome.
I think you were mentioning you're one of Ball State's newer employees, right?
Yes. I just came on last October. Glad to be here.
But that doesn't mean that you're hurting for any experience at all, right? You said there are quite a few projects that you just started working on this year.
I just finished up the television show. It's probably one of the biggest projects we've done since My Name is Jerry. It's a 12-episode television show off the streets. We're starting a new documentary. I have dorm stories, so I've got a pretty big plate.
And dorm stories in particular piqued our interest.
Yeah.
So can you give kind of an overview of the project?
Sure. Dorm Stories came out of Evenly Odd, which was a television webisode series sponsored by ID for Ball State. And within there were little segments called Dorm Stories, little commercial breaks where people had shared their humor and stories of living in a dorm, and we had taken them and put in animation behind them that goes along with the story. And we were watching it one day as Evenly Odd was getting ready to premiere, and we thought, wow, this could almost be its own thing. And we decided to go ahead and make it a project and kind of looked at what we could do with it. And what we're going to do is basically launch a website come May or June, and we're going to have these dorm stories released every week all the way into the fall. And we're hoping that eventually the web series goes viral.
That's very neat. So are you finding that people are willing to share their stories? I would imagine a lot of the things that go on in dorms aren't things that you would necessarily want to share with the public.
It takes a little coaxing sometimes from the students that are on the project and myself to get them to understand, you know, we're just looking for some humorous stories and nothing incriminating, nothing too bad that they're ashamed of, you know, to just share with us. And once we show them an example of what we're doing with the animation, they get a good idea of what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. What's the most shocking story you've heard so far?
The most shocking story. It's probably one we've coined called Duck Hunt.
Can you tell us?
I'll give you a little snippet. It's about two people who, innocently enough, were very hungry, living in the dorms, and they came from a background of living in the country and going hunting, and they hadn't had a home-cooked meal in a while.
Oh no, I can only imagine. So when can we see these dorm stories?
The website we're hoping to launch in May or June, and we're going to have initially 10 to 15 dorm stories, and then every week a new one's going to come out. And people are going to be able to go on, rate them, share their ideas. It's going to have a host, and it's going to be very interactive, and hopefully we'll get sponsorship down the road.
So to kind of wrap up, do you have any particular dorm stories, or you were saying some stories that you experienced?
I have a few stories, but mine, I lived in the barracks in the military, so they're a little bit different viewpoint.
So maybe a spin-off someday.
Yeah, we've talked about that. We're going after faculty eventually. Anyone who's ever gone to college can share these stories.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here today, Justin Jones, and we look forward to having you back someday to talk about more of the projects.
Sure.
Back to you, Bernardo.
Thank you so much, Katie. A judge drops an arrest warrant for Lindsay Lohan, a shock jock makes a shocking announcement about himself, and more of Jay Leno's stimulus plan. Michelle Wright reports from Hollywood Minute.
Lindsay Lohan is in the clear after a judge dropped a warrant for her arrest Monday. Judge Marcia Revel said the warrant was issued because of a report the actress was not attending alcohol treatment programs required under the terms of probation for a 2007 drunk driving conviction. But that proved to be wrong. The judge told Lohan's attorney that the court needs better documentation of her treatment program to avoid any more misunderstandings. The 22-year-old was not at the hearing. Radio host Don Imus made a surprising announcement on his show Monday.
Last Wednesday, was it last Wednesday? I was diagnosed with stage 2 prostate cancer.
The 68-year-old said he was surprised by the diagnosis, but expressed confidence the cancer can be cured. Tickets for Jay Leno's upcoming free show for Detroit's unemployed were so popular, the comic is adding a second free show. A spokesman for the Palace of Auburn Hills says Leno's comedy stimulus plan is now slated for April 7th and 8th. All people have to do to get tickets is say they're unemployed. Apparently, President Barack Obama appreciates Leno's lighter stimulus plan. He's appearing on The Tonight Show this week. For Hollywood Minute, I'm Michelle Wright reporting from Atlanta.
Some people think that The Real Deal only covers movies. Those people would be wrong. To formally refute that outrageous claim, here's Hope Ann Hintz with this week's music update.
So it's been a while since my last music update, but don't fret, I'm back to get everyone up to speed on what's happening in the music world. To start off with, a few big stories broke during the Grammy Awards. The biggest shocker would have to be the problem between Rihanna and Chris Brown. Although both parties haven't really spoken publicly about the altercation, Chris Brown has made a few court appearances and is scheduled to be arraigned on April 6th. During the Grammy Awards, another surprising announcement came. Blink-182 is back together. The three-piece band went on hiatus in December of 2004, but have reunited and should release a new CD later this year. DJ AM is seeking $20 million in damages related to the plane crash in South Carolina last year that killed 4 and left AM and Blink-182's Travis Barker in critical condition. The celebrity disc jockey is suing the plane's manufacturer, Learjet, and other companies. With the sales of vinyl records continuing to skyrocket, Green Day has decided to join the flashback bandwagon. During the course of this year, the punk rockers released their entire catalog of music on vinyl. The reissuing begins next week with Green Day's first 2 albums, 39 Smooth and Kerplunk. In addition, their 8th studio album will be released in May on CD, followed by the vinyl edition later. Speaking of releasing albums, 50 Cent said he will be releasing 2 albums this year. After thinking the first of his albums was going to be released in December, 50 Cent went back into the studio. Now, after a release pushback, the first album will drop in June, followed by the second album shortly thereafter. Also, 50 Cent will be joining Fall Out Boy on 5 dates of the band's summer Believer Never Die tour, starting in Dallas on April 17th. Fall Out Boy's tour will come to Indianapolis's White River State Park on May 15th, but unfortunately without 50 Cent. And finally, some sad news for the look of Times Square and the record industry. All Virgin megastores in the United States will close their doors by mid-June. You can blame it on falling CD sales along with the tumbling economy. This summer's close will mark the end of the British retail invasion, which also included the store HMV. So there you have it. That's the music update for this 3rd week of March. But the music news never stops flowing, so I promise more juicy updates in the music industry for shows to come. Bernardo?
Thank you, Hope Ann. That was music to my ears. In order to recover from that incredibly cliched phrase, we're going to take a commercial break. When we get back, The Real Deal is going medieval, and Sydney Sorrell is telling us the big movies coming out this weekend.